that support, and there are many opportunities which they can use and have opportunities even if there is a career break. And today we are having a valedictory function where we have two eminent people. The chief guest is Professor Sonia Nityanand, who is the director of Dr. Lohia Institute of Medical Science, and the guest of honor is Mrs. Renuka Mishra, Director General of Police, State President. Welcome, ma'am. And I wish you all a pleasant stay here and safe journey back home. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Ramani. I now request our guest of honor, Mrs. Renuka Mishra, to address the gathering.
A very good afternoon to all those present here, and especially the distinguished guests and the director of the CSIR and Dr. Sridevi. I have to look at the names, I'm sorry, I don't remember, but a very good afternoon to all of you. I thought I was coming up after the chief guest, but since I'm coming up before, so be it. I'm delighted, grateful and honored to be invited to CSIR Indian Institute of Toxicology Research as guest of honor for the valedictory session of WARM-FoST Women in Academia Research and Management of Food Safety and Toxicology, which in itself is quite a mouthful to say all this. Congratulations on your launch of the 44th chapter of the AFSTI. This is that time of the year when refreshingly but suddenly every organization starts looking around for women role models in other organizations, often ignoring their own. And 51.96% of the population begins to recognize the contribution of 48.04% of the population. Not sure who is to be thanked for Women's Day, but thank you. And after the 8th of March, I often say, in jest of course, that we the women can now step off the limelight and rest in peace. I was very impressed by the choice of themes for your workshop and would be very interested in knowing the outcome of the discussions that took place over the past 2 days. The themes are powerful and positive, to say the least. I'm sure you would have discussed these themes at length and formulated some very interesting and inspiring action plans. For any action plan to succeed, the first place to start would be, let me start with a very small question. Let's say at about 12 o'clock in the night, if you have kids, then your kid wakes you up and says, "Mummy or Papa, how many legs does a cockroach have?" What are you likely to do? Interactive. Shut up and go to sleep. That is the most likely outcome of that question. But what if that same kid wakes you up at the same time in the night and said कि मम्मी भूख लगी है या प्यास लगी है? What are you likely to do? So we often satisfy the physical hunger of the child, but the intellectual hunger of the child is often relegated to the second place. And if you take it in another way, that if the child is not hungry and you feed the child, what is going to happen? You're all about the dose makes the poison, right? As far as toxicology is concerned. Yeah. So what are you likely to do? When the child is not wanting to eat and you feed the child, it will either hate that thing for the rest of its life, or it will puke it out, it will vomit it out, or it will, not accept it. So, and if the child is hungry, what is likely to happen? Whatever you give the child, if the child is hungry, they're likely to take it in. The same goes for training, and the same goes for everything that you do with students. Because when the child does not have the spirit of inquiry, you have not left space for the vacuum in the child's brain or in the student's brain, and ठूसना शुरू कर देते हैं, एक के बाद एक, we thinking that they're going to receive all of that. They're not going to receive it. They're going to puke it out. All these. Or they're just going to pick up the presses and throw them somewhere. Because they're not ready for it. They have not inculcated that spirit of inquiry. So for anything to succeed, this intellectual hunger will first need to be created, and then it will need to be satisfied. And then you can be sure that it's going straight where it's required to go. So I hope that this very important aspect of success has been taken into consideration, and also we must also ensure, I hope this has also been discussed in the past 2 days, that any individual, male or female, for them to work towards these themes, it is just as important that the familial, the societal and the environmental bubble in which we exist and sustain, that supports our goals, or at least it does not inhibit our efforts. I hope we have had some time to discuss that. You know, when Dorothy Hodgkins won the Nobel Prize for her work in visualizing biomolecules through X-rays, which allowed the understanding of the structure of penicillin, and she later discovered the essentiality of vitamin B12 and insulin, which we are so familiar with these days. The British press reported her achievement as Oxford housewife wins Nobel Prize. Hedy Lamarr, the inventor of wireless technology, so to speak, was not taken seriously for many years because she was stunningly beautiful. And on those days, as per her biographer, nobody took beautiful women seriously in intellectual matters. Jane Goodall, one of the first female primatologists, ethologists, and anthropologists who worked with chimpanzees, in her discoveries helped disprove many scientific notions held at that time on primates. The British press said about her, she's the only National Geographic cover girl because she's got nice legs. Two personal examples that immediately come to my mind. When I applied for childcare leave many years ago, my boss said that तुमको क्यों childcare leave की ज़रूरत है? IPS officer थोड़ी लेते हैं childcare leave. So I said, IPS officer को बच्चे नहीं होते क्या? So then he says कि अरे मैं जब मेरा बेटा, I said my son is in the 10th standard, I've got to be around at least for his 10th standard. So he says, मेरा बेटा जब 10th standard में था तो मैं तो कश्मीर में posted था, and he gave me a big thing about it. So I said, हाँ सर आप कश्मीर में posted थे, बहुत बढ़िया. तो आपकी पत्नी थी घर में जो देखभाल कर रही थी. मेरी भी कोई पत्नी होती तो मुझे ये दिक्कत ना होती. तो क्योंकि मेरी कोई पत्नी नहीं है इसलिए मुझे childcare नहीं है. So he didn't like it very much. I must tell you that he was not very happy with my answer, but I was thrilled with my answer. As it came out, that's why I feel good about it. So sometimes you need that wife at home to be able to do this. So that backup is really important. Another incident that comes to my mind is I went to visit one of my ex-bosses. He was heading another paramilitary organization. And I went to call on him, and then he ordered for coffee, and a very nice person otherwise. So he ordered for coffee and all, and then he says कि अच्छा रेणुका तुम हो, तो हम बैठ करके हम लोग कॉफी पी रहे हैं, कोई और लेडी होती ना तो हम 2-4 को बिठा लेते अपने पास, as protection. Meaning, this whole thing about the sexual harassment at workplace, this act in the Vishaka guidelines and then the act was brought into place to protect those who get sexually harassed at the workplace. It was to enable mainstreaming. And what has it done in a way? It has made people inhibited to even take people into the mainstream because they don't want to be seen anywhere near them, lest they complain. Completely ulta effect ho rakha hai. So these are very important things that we have to keep in mind, whether male or female. So what comes in the way, I mean, this is like collateral damage, that has happened. You try to do something for somebody's good and then something else happens. So what comes in the way of achieving these themes that you've listed out? Being born itself, fed, bred, educated, and the struggle goes on throughout the career, throughout the home, through caregiving until we breathe our last. the preconceived notions of natural contraception. You know that girls are breastfed less than the boys, especially when the girl is the first child. It is believed that because if she keeps feeding, then it is a natural contraception, right or wrong. And so as soon as she is born, then the mother tries to get pregnant again, obviously under pressure, and so stops breastfeeding the girl child. Now, people who have these kind of notions, and the entire pressure rests on her, and she can only give you the X chromosome. She can't give you the Y chromosome. The Y chromosome has to come from the male, and that I guess everybody should know by now. So, but the pressure is again on the woman. Mid-school dropouts of female students. Now, chalo पैदा भी हो गई, बेटी बचाओ, बेटी पढ़ाओ हो गया, बेटी भी बच गई. Then you have mid-school dropouts. Then the girl has to take on that responsibility. Don't look at people like us. We come from a different level of society and maybe we have it better than the rest. But if we want this movement to increase, to go right up to the last, to the masses, then mid-school dropouts are happening because that girl has to now take care of the next sibling, whether it is a girl or whether it is a boy. And then therefore there are dropouts. So these household chores, they become the responsibility of that little girl. High school dropouts are mostly due to unavailability of high schools in the village. So the girl has to travel somewhere. How will she travel? How will she be protected when she travels? Same problem for graduation. And then finally for post-graduation. So by the time the girl becomes a graduate, then the big problem happens is that graduate ladki ko kaun shaadi karega? And then the big thing happens that कि शादी कैसे कराएं, उसकी शादी कैसे कराएं, कितना हमको डाउरी देना पड़ेगा. In Salem, Tamil Nadu, there is a local saying in Tamil that translates that raising a girl child is like watering a neighbor's plant. We have to get out of that mindset. And if this girl somehow overcomes all this, she completes her post-graduation and now looks to work, her being unmarried is also a problem. And then her being married is also a problem because now she is going to bear kids and hence she is going to go on maternity leave. And can we still keep her in the job when she goes on maternity leave? You were born because of somebody getting pregnant. It's no, you were not born with some divine conception. But then when you look at your subordinates who get married and get pregnant, then they are looked at differently. And it happens in every organization. If it doesn't happen in yours, it is only because it will only stop when there are more numbers. There is majority in numbers because then you can claim your space, you can claim your issues, you can talk about those issues and propose to rectify them. Sexism, socialization, driven attitudes, biases, stereotyping, prejudices don't help. Even in the police station, if somebody goes, she's been a victim of e-teasing, she goes, his socialization process makes him ask her silly questions and totally uncalled for questions like, were you wearing these clothes when you got teased? Obviously you got teased. Or were you talking so loudly in this high-pitched voice? Obviously it happened to you. So these kind of issues come from this socialization process. I did an extensive study and a gender audit of the police organization. Presented this at the National Conference for Women in Police. And on the basis of the problems that you'll be surprised as to what kind of problems were there. Girls were not drinking water at least 1.5 to 2 days in advance of a law and order duty, like an election duty or a law and order riot control or that kind of duty, because they did not have anywhere to go to the toilet. So if somebody gets dehydrated and falls down at the workplace, nobody's going to understand that she's dehydrated and she didn't drink water. They're just going to think she's weak and why do we have women in the police force at all? Simple things like your bulletproof vests, body protectors, they are all made for flat-chested males. They were not made keeping the women's anatomy in mind. And so many other things of urinary infections. The girls were having urinary infections because throughout our lives we have been taught to hide our underclothes when we are drying them. लड़के का चड्डी जो है वो वैसे ही सूखता रहेगा, लेकिन लड़की का जो है वो तौलिया से लपेट करके उसके ऊपर से कुछ रख करके, nobody should know what she's wearing inside. This is how, you know, conditioning happens. And because of that, those underclothes never see the sun. If they don't see the sun, infections happen. So we found so many such issues. We raised these issues and we came out with a whole list of, solutions, keeping all these things in mind. It was taken up by the parliament, and there was this MP Anupriya Patel who raised it as a question in parliament. And after that, finally, a committee was set up. I was in the paramilitary at that time. I was in the border cutting forces. A committee was set up, and to look into provisioning and procurement for women also. So every committee then started having women in it. कि अगर वर्दी भी खरीद रहे हैं या कोई भी चीज़ खरीद रहे हैं, तो उसमें हमारे फोर्स में दोनों हैं, महिलाएं भी हैं और पुरुष भी हैं, तो दोनों के हिसाब से होना चाहिए, नॉट केवल एक के हिसाब से. Even simple things like doing the beam. They said that if we get a beam with a lesser grip, with a thinner grip, we will be able to do it. It's a very wide grip and our hands are small and we are not able to do it. People used to tell us when we were under training, कि lady probationer लटकी रहो. No, while the male probationer does whatever he does, तो lady probationer just has to लटकी रहो वहाँ पे जब तक वो 4-5-6 कर देता. मैं तो 4-5 कर भी लेती थी, but the rest of them just had to hang from the bar. So these kind of things caught the eyes of the parliament, and then we have committees, and now the police forces are actually looking into this. So sometimes if you envision a problem, coming out with that problem, talking about it, writing a paper on it, projecting it, presenting it, will give you some results. It may not give you results everywhere, but somewhere or the other it will stick and it will help some people around you. All along we've been thinking about gender equality. We've been talking about gender equality. Let's say there is a football match and you have to see the football match. Let's say it's here and you can only see it through windows in the wall. And you're journalists and you have to cover that football match. So they put 2 stools of equal height and you have to stand on those stools and you can, look out. So the male looks at the football match through that window, but the female has to suffice with the wall because she cannot reach the window. Equality, what do you need for the woman? You need a higher stool. So equality means equal stools. And what the theme of this year's Women's Day is, it's equity. And equity means what is required for a particular person, that has to be provided. And hence you need a higher stool. And you know that Article 15(3) of the Indian Constitution provides for that positive discrimination. So it's not some khairat jo baant rahe hain. If we are doing it, we are doing it. So we have to make that workplace conducive to her also, so that what is the reason for this? So that she can put in her best and give her optimum efficiency. Isn't that what is required from any worker? So that was the underlying theme behind that paper on gender audit. And we hope that that will get taken further and every institution will start doing a gender audit for their own institution, not just about toilets and all that, which is also very necessary, but about everything. Are we making the workplace such that both can compete equally? So just as it is unfair to have differential treatment for the same people, it is also unfair to have the same treatment for different people. There is some encouraging data. The global sex ratio in the world is 1,068 males per 1,000 females. And India is many shades better with 1,016 males to 1,000 females. We are better off even in the STEM. While the world is at 18%, we are at 46%, or 43 to 46% of our STEM graduates or women in science and technology are, 43% of the entire ones are women. So we are doing much better than the world, which is why we also contribute to the world. You see, many of our scientists were going abroad and contributing to other places within the world. But having said that, while we say that the scenario is better, you know that the government of India has put up a lot initiatives. You have the Vigyan Jyoti scheme, you have Pragati, you have Gati, you have Curie. I'm sure you are aware of all these things and you would have discussed it over this, so I'm not going into the details of it. In 2020, the Government of India also announced the establishment of 11 chairs in the names of women scientists and all that. So this is what the government is trying to do for us, fair enough. What the government is trying to do, apni jagah. What can we do for ourselves? The most important thing is to support each other. We are not in competition with each other. We have to support each other. We have to change the workplace, create a gender-friendly environment, make it easier for yourself and women like you. And like I said earlier, the dose makes the poison. All things are poison and nothing without poison. The dosage alone makes it so. A thing is not poison. Oxygen is necessary for survival, yes. Too much oxygen is toxic. Too much carbon dioxide, potassium, sodium, etc. Everything is toxic. Moderation is good. Anything in excess or deficient is toxic. And you would have heard of relationships which are toxic as well because of the same reason. So make your partners real partners. Make them equal partners. Ensure that they give you backup. Otherwise, don't choose them. Choose those who can give you backup or afford enough, both of you together, to get backup from outside. Because if backup nahi rahega, then you can't come to office. You will go through guilt trips every day for leaving your child at home. You will probably go through it more than the men go through it. But if you don't have that, then, so there's no shame in asking for help. There are no inhibitions in projecting your work and getting awarded for it. No inhibitions. If you've done something good, talk about it, present it, come out forcefully. As it is, if you're assertive, they're going to look at you as aggressive. Doesn't matter. Do it anyway. Don't second guess your own capabilities. And also don't second guess the women who work for you or who you work for. Shed your own gender biases. Many times that also happens. I had a boss, she said, she wanted an idea, a suggestion. She was a lady and she wanted some ideas and she says, okay, anybody has any ideas? I waited because I was the senior most among the rest of them. I said, decency बनता है कि I wait. और मेरा दिमाग जो है फूटने लगता है ideas, ऐसे निकलने लगते हैं. So I held myself back. And after some time, when nobody spoke, I said, it's disrespectful because she said, give me ideas, and nobody gave any ideas in the room. So then I said, ma'am, and she said, I didn't ask you, Renuka. So I said, ma'am, that's gender bias. So everybody laughed, and later on, she was very upset about the fact that I said gender bias. But that could also happen. Gender doesn't mean female. You're aware of that. Sex is male or female. Gender is what society makes of the male and makes of the female. So gender bias could be here also. So if you are a woman and you have reached a position which is good, it is up to you to also help and support and at least not suspect the capabilities of those who are like you. Get rid of the imposter syndrome. Don't get gaslit. The imposter syndrome is when you don't have strength, you don't have faith in your own capabilities. You constantly second guess yourself. मुझे ये award मिला, पता नहीं क्यों नहीं मिला, मेरे पति ने मेरी बहुत मदद की, इन्होंने मदद की, डायरेक्टर साहब ने बहुत मदद की, उन्होंने मदद, अरे छोड़ो, award मिला है, claim it for yourself. Because if you don't do it, your kids who are looking at you, Dr. Sonia came into this technology, science and technology field because both her parents were part of CSIR. Attracting talent, retaining talent, and also getting inspired by talent. How will you inspire the next generation? So, it's not about only having a seat at the table. It is about making space for more women at the table. It's not that just one woman जिसको खैरात में table पे seat दिया गया है. Make longer tables, make better tables, have more seats. आओ सबको ले जाओ. More people, you will get more things done. And you can do it only if you think that only if you are not suffering from that imposter syndrome कि मैं ही आ गई बहुत बड़ी बात है. नहीं, ये आपका हक है. They should pay you to be at that table. Remember that always. So empowerment, you mentioned empowerment a little while ago, Ms. Shetty. Empowerment is not something that can be bestowed upon you like a freebie. It has to be ingrained into our moral, social, political and economic fabric, and it must come about through focused and committed policy formulation and implementation. Nobody is going to give you empowerment. We have empowered women. Who are you to empower women? Women have to come forward and empower themselves. Lean in, lean on, do anything, get out. Claim your space. When you have got there, like all of you have got there, if all of you have decided to take on science and technology as a field, if all of you have become, many of you have become women scientists, women academicians, so many inspiring people among you. Once you have reached there, champion them. Those people like you. Hoist them on your shoulders, even if nobody did that for you. Together we will grow. As a gender, as a people, as a nation. You might have had role models who inspired you, but now that you have reached where you have, wherever it might be, it is no longer about who you want to be. Stop thinking about who your role model will be. Think about who wants to be you. Who is it that you are going to inspire? अब वो बीत गया, वो टाइम बीत गया जब हम किसी और से इंस्पिरेशन ले लें. हम किसके इंस्पिरेशन हैं? Does your daughter, does your son look at you as their role model? Are you doing enough for that? So a big shout out for all those who did not put thorns in your path. A bigger shout out to all those who championed you, supported you in reaching where you have. And the biggest shout out to all you women here. Your struggles, your victories, your resilience in the face of adversity, and all your triumphs, despite opposition, will inspire those who will walk your path. Thank you for being the women you are. I want to end with a small thing I would like you to do. I've been a trainer at the National Police Academy for 5.5 years, so forgive the teacher instinct in me. Please raise your hands. Can everybody see me, understand English? Everybody can do it, all including podium. Please raise your hands. Can you make a ring like this? You were able to make a ring like this? Yeah, everyone? Please place this on your chin. Where is your chin, ladies and gentlemen? Why did you do this? So, your children, your followers, your students, they all listen with their eyes. Nobody listens with their ears. The ears are only for the masks. Everybody listens with their eyes. So no matter what you say to them, what you do and what they are seeing you do is what is going to inspire them or change them forever. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, ma'am. That was wow. Again, for that wow talk, a big round of applause, please. Did I just mention that Mrs. Renuka Mishra specialization is gender issues, leadership development, ethics? I think she demonstrated it all. So, thank you, ma'am, and thank you for the wonderful talk. And certainly, it's not about equality. Equality, I always believe, breeds inequality because it doesn't make it equity. So equity is something that will give customized access to tools. But I think India is one country which recognized justice is beyond equity. So they give access tools and try to liberate people by building down the blocks that are in the front. So that was a wonderful lesson. I think that's what I picked up from what you said. And I now request Dr. Sridevi to honor Mrs. Renuka Mishra at the moment to honor Shami. A lot of young women, presented their, I wouldn't call it research work, but their work of their lifetime doing PhD, a master, internship. So there was a poster session that was held yesterday and today. It was on. So there are prizes to be distributed for posters, as well as there were some presentations made by selected poster presenters. So there are two categories of prizes to be awarded. One is for posters, the other is for flash presentation, that was out of the selected poster presentations. So may I now request Professor Sonia Nityanand to award the prizes for the young woman who presented. There are 4 prizes in the posters category. The first one I will read out backwards. There is a consolation prize, which is won by Nupur Rastogi, who belongs to the regional center of CFTRI. Certificate. The third prize is won by Apurva Saxena, CSR IIT. The second prize goes to Ms. Prachi Jain, IIT Roorkee. Nikita Sharogi of IITR is the first prize winner. May I now request Mrs. Renuka Mishra to award the prize winners of the flash presentations. And the third prize goes to Anandita Devpal of JD Birla Institute Kolkata. And the second prize goes to Yahavi Chandrasekharan, IITR. The first prize goes to Madhurya of CFTR University. Thank you. I now request Professor Sonia Nityanand to address the gathering.
Mrs. Renuka Mishra, the Director General of